are.
Well, no, but that like so we're just talking about like I love it like so like you're saying humans have to be connected to each other, right?
That's how our brains are wired.
But do you think that there are like do you think there are some people that are not meant to be connected, or do you feel like generally we are typically meant to be connected?
Well, I think, how human beings are when everything's working healthy, we are supposed to be, but there's always people on different ends of the spectrum and who are not maybe neurotypical or may have some differences that, we can't lump all humans together. But in general, that's how our brains are wired, is for connection. If we think back to like caveman times, right? Being alone meant you were going to die because you couldn't protect yourself against all of the wild creatures or be able to get the food you needed. Um, and yeah, and then just like neurologically, how our brain is. Um, Kiddos, when they're developing, if they've had trauma, or you can tell like they've had like neglect or haven't had parents, like you can see, because your brain develops from back to front, and you can see like the brain will stop developing until they'll like stop at this, they'll be a 16-year-old at the developmental level of an 8-year-old, because their brain hasn't followed through with those steps. So even just neurologically, how we're built as well.
That's huge. Like
For that.
thinking as you're I'm thinking of three people that I know, like where it's literally that stilted growth, where it's like they're just locked into that, and so everything in their life, like however they react, is very much of that like
Immature.
childlike, immature, like everything is a temper tantrum, and it's not even emotional manipulation. It's literally just like they're in that they're in that state
Yeah.
of like childlike fear, and that's
Yeah.
because of not being nurtured.
Yeah, like not receiving that type of like love and care. Our brain will be like, oh well, they're not going to last long in this world, so why are we even trying? But people do, they do catch up when you have that like loving, caring, supportive, secure relationships. Your brain will actually, and it'll like speed up, and it'll like quickly gain that development. But the older we get, the harder and slower our brain changes.
See, but this is okay. So this makes me feel good that I'm wired for this. Like, I'm sorry to make this about me, but I'm going to make this about me. So I like the. Thanks, Dr. Brittany. So you're saying I'm wired for this, right? Like I'm wired to connect, and when I'm in a place of growth, which I am, like then it's like I go, oh, I'm doing this all alone. It'd be better to partner, and then I could grow even more, right?
Yeah. Or even like I'm growing and I'm doing all these amazing things. Like when like I want to share this. Like this feels hollow if I'm just doing it on my own.
Okay, but Dr. Brittany, check this out. And I want to talk, we're
Okay.
going to talk about your history. We're going to talk about everything. I promise we'll bring it back. I promise.
Love. No, it's good.
So like I've never and I had my co-parent on the show recently, and like so I'm a big fan of her. She was like my business mentor in a way. Like so it's not no disrespect to her, but like I've never been good, and I think she would agree. Actually, I've never been good at this thing. I've never been good at relationships. Like I've always failed at it. Like and from the women I picked to the way I showed up, like all the things. So how does someone? Is it even possible? And I want to talk about attachment styles. We're going to talk about it all today. I hope you have like 7 hours because we're just gonna.
Well, but no.
Just
We can
kidding.
always do more.
True that. Well, I just want to do the Dr. Brittany series because one of the coolest things about knowing you is that you are so knowledgeable and you've really honed in on relationships and especially attachment styles, right? Which was like new to me and a lot of people are talking about it. So again, like I want to hear your wisdom about that stuff. But I love how knowledgeable and you make it fun and playful. Like you make it so joyous, this whole process that I think people angst about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to go back
Okay, please.
to something you said. Like I'm always failing at relationships, right? Aren't we all always failing at relationships?
Well, why? But like, tell me why. Like, take it away. Here we go.
Because
Why?
relationships are about learning, right? So we're always doing it wrong until we've learned how to correct it, right? If I'm entering into a relationship with you, I'm going to do things wrong that are because you're a unique person. So I'm going to do things that upset you or not okay for you or not comforting for you, aren't showing love and care for you. And I'm not going to know that. I'm going to have to fail. And so you can be like, hey, that sucked. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sucked. Maybe I should try something different. Um,
Oh no, Dr. Brittany. Post divorce, I don't have any needs anymore. I'm fully like No, no, my bad. I'm sorry. I had this reaction. I'm so sorry.
No, we need, because needs are our way that our, even like our body is communicating that something's not being met. And if we're not sharing that with our partner, they can't grow either. They can't fail and learn too.
See, so something that my co-parent and I have talked about, and I learned this year that I was am or I don't know anymore, but like was anxious attachment. I say I don't know anymore because now I'm like I just assume like I'm sorry. You know, like I just assume to not have any. If I ever get into this thing again, I'll not have any emotions or not have any responses. Is my goal. So it's not
Well,
even
that's
secure.
anxious attachment. So
Oh, that is anxious to have it.
yeah.
I thought that was like the
I'm not going to take up space because I'm afraid if I take up any space, you're going to say I'm too much and leave me.
which kind of is what happened. And at any rate, which is fine. So actually, yeah, let's start there. Can you describe the two different styles?
Yeah. So first of all, the attachment styles are, it's more like a personality test. So it's not like you are this, you are that. There's no gray. It's just these are ways that kind of describe people who fall into these categories typically behave in this way. So I always like to start with that because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, like some of this fits for me and some of that fits for me. And I don't feel like I fall into either one of these categories. And so there's more gray and in depth, things we can learn about this.
And there's four, right?
Yeah. So I like to think about it as how we view ourselves and how we view others. So someone who's secure, that's what we want. That is like the goal attachment. So someone who's secure is like, I can trust myself. I can rely on myself. I'm someone who's worthy of love. And also others are trustworthy. I can rely on them and it's okay that I love them, right? It's just both I'm trustworthy, others are trustworthy. I don't battle this like difference between closeness and independence. I have a sense of ease at finding that in relationships. So that's our goal. That's what we're always aiming for. And then we have anxious attachment where they're like, others are awesome. Others are so cool. They're so competent. They can do everything. I am a mess. And so I need help and support from others. I am always kind of like fearing rejection. So like scanning the environment for any time that my needs might not be met, that my partner's not as interested in me as I am. I might not take up as much space because I'm worried if I set a boundary or a need, then that person will leave me. Kind of that. And then this emotional dysregulation. So if you're someone that just like everything sends you into a spiral or you just feel like your emotions are in control of you, that's more of that category. And then the opposite category is the avoidant attachment, which is I'm cool, I got all my stuff together, others need some work. So they kind of constantly feel that others are needy and overwhelming and they like their space. At the end of the day, they don't feel like they can trust anyone else. They have to rely on themselves. They feel much more that they can rule with logic and emotions for those other people. And so they don't feel like they're impacted a lot by emotion. So that's that grouping. And then there's the fourth grouping where it's like, oh, I don't trust myself. I don't think I can really rely on myself. And I don't think others are trustworthy. So if you've ever been in a relationship where you yourself or someone's been kind of like push pull, where it's they all of a sudden are like super loving and clingy and needy, and then the next day they can be super cold and distant and push you away. This is that attachment style going, right? Because maybe their anxious attachment part of them is being triggered or their avoidant attachment part of them is being triggered, and they really have this like back and forth and this struggle to feel, like I was saying with this secure attachment, there's just this ease between independence and dependence and dependence on others, or someone who is fearfully attached, they just don't feel comfortable in either of those settings.
So are people born this way, or are they like is this something that you acquire through childhood, like we said before, like the way you're nurtured, the way you're brought up? Like how does someone get to this place, and can you get out of it?
Yeah, so that's actually an interesting thing because so temperament is kind of babies' personalities. So there's can be some interplay in the environment where maybe you're a really colicky baby that's really needy and like cries and just needs to be held all the time. That's part of you're literally how you were born, right? So that may play a role, or maybe you're more like calm, cool, collected baby that is a little more distant, or there can be some pieces that are innately part of who you are. But typically it's our parenting. At first, it can then develop and change. But really, what we're learning are, am I lovable and are others trustworthy? So, say you have a helicopter parent that does everything for you and never lets you do anything, never lets you go play with others or leave their side, right? You're learning, I'm not trustworthy. I can't rely on myself. I always need others to be around me. So, you're starting to learn that template of like, oh, I can't do this on my own. I need others. Or maybe your parents are working two jobs and or maybe dealing with their own like postpartum depression or dealing with three other kids of theirs, and so maybe they're a little bit more distant, and you learn that I'm reliable for taking care of myself. So you start learning these lessons, and a lot of times people are like, oh, I had a great childhood. And this isn't saying that you have a bad childhood. This is just some of the ways of being that you've learned from your parents. They probably learned from their family as well. And then with that lens, we go into our adolescent relationships, we go into romantic relationships. And a lot of times these can either like shift or change or cement some of those views of ourselves. So it's something that there's pieces that could be a little bit of your just wiring that you're born with. It could be some of your parenting that you received. And then also the follow-up relationships in your life help kind of shape and mold and cement that view for you.
See, I just love when you describe this stuff. You make it so palpable and so easy to like follow. So I grew up like a child of the '80s. Like I grew up like with all the '80s movies and everything. All these big like epic blockbusters where it was about destroying the empire, and it always felt like if you do the sequence of events like and you wrestle your demons or whatever, then you will get to that plateau. You'll get to that point where everything will always work out. So is there such a thing? And I love that. And it was a shock as an adult where you might get to a plateau, shit works out, and then it's like you go to the next level and then the next level, right? Like,
Yeah.
so is there ever like once you get to secure attachment, if that's the goal as a person, and you're like you said, you fail in every relationship till you get it right, and then you get to secure, like, is that it? Is it like you beat the empire prior to like sequels and reboots? Like, is it you just beat the empire and then you're good to go? Like, are you there? You're like, fuck, I'm driving or I'm flying first class the rest of my life now. Do you just like make it, or is it a constant struggle to stay at secure attachment?
Well, I think that's again like a complicated answer. And then a really terrifying thing that is like doomsday feeling. But it's a lot easier to become to damage your attachment than it is to like strengthen it. Strengthening it is really difficult, whereas like one traumatic breakup can really shift some of our attachment beliefs in a more negative way. But that's also just how humans work. We're more impacted by negative than we are positive. There could be 20 amazing things that happen throughout your day, but if there's one thing that sucked, you're going to remember the thing that sucked. So kind of that same thing, like that's why we want to be choosy about the people we let in our life, is because we don't want to let people in that are going to be hurtful. But I also like, again, even if you have a secure attachment, it doesn't mean that you're not failing in relationships. They're just better at mending when that happens. Where someone with an insecure attachment, so with anxious or avoidant attachment, when they fail, it usually like combines and gets worse. Because either it's like, oh, well, if you're avoidant, like I didn't fail. This was really your problem. It's not my problem to work on. Or if you're anxious, it's like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. Like, oh, frenzy, like I have no needs. It's all about you. What can I do to repair this? I'm so sorry. Or someone who's
You
secure
just,
can
you
hear.
just, oh, sorry. You just described me to a T, and I'm like, ugh, I'm done. I'm done. And then literally, I'm saying what you, I'm like, I'm off the market. Like, I don't need
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, but someone who's secure, and this is like wonderful if you've ever experienced, if you are in the more anxious or avoidant camp, if you've ever experienced a relationship with someone who is secure, you get to have this conversation of ease around like, yeah, that hurt. This is why it hurt. Can we adapt and change this? And that person's like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. Thank you for sharing that with me. How can we work on this? And then it's like, cool, let's move forward.
See, and then do you like? Tell me real quick. I want to step back. I love these. Everything you're saying is so great because it's like it's obviously making me think so much about myself um, and even just like little successes that I've had recently with like um, in general, like just dealing with people and not being volatile, not reacting like I used to, and then at the same token, being able to soothe myself and go, okay, that person is not mad at you. They're not trying to be rude. Like they're triggered by what was said, and you don't have to throw yourself under the bus. You could just end this right here and don't put more fuel in the flame. You know,
Yeah.
you're not. Is that on the road to secure?
Well, and also again, right? Like, I don't think that there's this like end point that like, haha, you've reached secure, and then like, confetti blows off, and it's like, da 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 da, you can join all the rest of us up here. Um, like, so for me, I definitely have more avoidant tendencies. There's been times in my life where I've been really deep in that camp. But now, I feel like I have a lot of secure tendencies, but whenever I'm stressed, whenever I'm overworked, whenever something's really triggering to me, I go straight back into my avoidant coping. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're going to be perfect all the time. It just might mean that you make a lot better choices, and then sometimes you don't make the best choices. But yes, that is like being able to take yourself out of that context where it's overwhelming and be able to like have some distance, assess the situation, like, okay, I didn't do anything wrong in that situation. It wasn't a good fit for that person, or is triggering for that person in that way. Like, how can the both of us work on this instead of like, oh, this was my fault, everything's my fault, they're upset, so I probably need to change everything about me.
I love that you're saying that so I got let go from my position as husband like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago almost now.
I love that.
Thank you.
My position of husband.
I got let go. It wasn't personal. It was we just there were cutbacks. Um, I had a whole HR debriefing afterwards. I mean, it turns out it was all my fault, but it doesn't matter. But so I got and since then I probably dated like 6 or 7 women. Like in my head, they didn't know it, but like, but the journey of it was so much. To me, it was so much healthier. I know it sounds stupid, like, and it is obviously a bit I'm working on, but like the truth of it is like I started shifting in terms of like this is to speak to what you said about bringing people in and being more discerning about how you bring people in. I started just like with women that I really liked or was really attracted to. I would like just enjoy them. I like in my head I'd be like enjoy and we'd hang out or whatever it is. Like, but there was never pushing in that direction or another direction. It was just in my head. I was like, oh, I really enjoy this, and I would just like really just try to be present with and just sit with, and be like, oh, I like this, and then I realized like, you know what, this is something I really like about them as a friend. However, I think that would be triggering and kind of like that could cause conflict later, and I don't think I want to go that route. Is that messed up, or is that like I can't like?
So I think it's not about avoiding ever being triggered. It's like, trust me, I get triggered all the time in my relationship right now, right? It's about, okay, what do we do? And then also, how does that fit with my values, right? So say someone says, you start dating them and they say like, I'm really bad at texting. And then you're like, okay, well, like that sucks because that's how I like to take communication. That like makes you feel wanted and needed and reassured. And then you start dating them a little bit and you can kind of see that popping up or like mid conversation, we'll stop texting you, right? It could be like, you know what, this doesn't fit for me. This person's not going to work. I'm just going to feel really anxious all the time, right? That if we have that strict of stuff, right, we're never going to find anyone. So it's about being able, feeling comfortable and saying, hey, I know you say you're not like great at texting. This is something that's important to me, makes me feel connected to my partner. What are some other ways that you feel connected? Like, could we do a phone call at the end of the day? Are you a Snapchat person? Do you want to send me pictures of you throughout your day doing weird stuff? Like what fits so that we can both get our need met? So instead of just being like, well, whatever, this is going to cause problems, I'm out. Being like, okay, do I have the self confidence to be able to say this is a need I have, and see how they react?
I am getting dizzy and sweaty thinking about being in that position and asking, being that vulnerable. I think I just figured out what my issues is. All right, here my issues are.
Cool, cool.
Right? Like I am terrified right now. I'm literally like thinking about being in that position, being like, "Hey, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Can I voice respectfully? Um, can I just?"
Stop. That lead up was even an anxious lead up right there. I'm so sorry. Can I respectfully, can I just, can I please, and like take an inch? Like, hey, this is something that's important to me. This is something that I value in relationships. This is how typically I do it. Seems like this is the way, something that you do it differently. Can we find a middle ground? You don't need to apologize about asking.
I can't believe how small I feel on the inside right now. Like this has never obviously happened to me in a show, but like in an episode, but like, oh my god, like what the fuck? Like how do you like how do you? Okay, this is my issue here, and maybe this is the issue for other people too, is
Yeah,
voicing their needs,
it's
right? Because
always.
like this is what it comes down to, right? Because we go into a
Mhm.
relationship ostensibly because there's a need that we want filled, right? Like whether it's attached, anxious or avoidant, right? Like avoidant person still wants to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Why? Like why do we? Why? Like what is at the root of that? Like it's needs being, like a
Yeah.
need being met and
We're all
fed,
trying
right?
to figure out how to get our needs met.
So why do we think relationships can do it though? If all we talk about all day is that
Yeah.
that they're failing and all the like, why do we have to go to relationships to have needs met?
Because humans need other people.
No, I know we keep coming back to that. I get that, but
uh, I mean, yeah, I enjoy my company, but I can't really make myself feel loved or cared for. Or, like sharing moments of like fun and excitement is always better with other people. I mean, yeah, I can watch something funny on TV, but sitting next to someone and laughing with them and pausing and making fun of the people on TV is a lot more enjoyable.
I recently got into football. I'm like almost 70, and so it's like better late than never. I'm like really into it. And then my daughter yesterday, she was over and we were watching a game, and she's like, dude, she's like, I love this. She's like, this is so fun, and she wants to watch football again today.
Yeah.
And so it was like so funny. Like it was such a better experience. Like walking through it with her, and we're like, okay, that's our team, and they're oh my god, like yeah, what's gonna happen? And then my brother-in-law wanted the other team to win, so we like called him together on voicemail, and my daughter's like, what's up, sucker? Our team scored. The Patriots scored. You know, it was like it was such a fun experience.
Yeah.
Um, that like yeah, like I bring this up because I'm like yeah, I guess like I forget that and
Mhm.
in the past like no
And you
disrespect.
don't pathologize your need for wanting to spend time with your daughter, do you?
No, that's safe because she needs me, right? Like I can justify it. This is fucked up, but I can justify it because she needs me. But even though she is the funniest, like most dynamic, like she's all the things I like about myself and more, right? Because we're very similar in temperament and
Yeah.
personality, and so we calm each other down, like we get each other. So it's nice to have someone. It's nice to have a family member that I was co-creator with, like so it's nice that like I see in
Yeah.
her the things I like about myself and the things I wish I was more of. So it's easy. It's under that auspice, like it's under that house that I'm like, oh yeah, I can hang out with her. It's great. She's 5.
Yeah. 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 I mean, when I was young, I used to, when my dad would watch football, I would ask what team he was rooting for, and then I would root for the other team and bet him $1. And it made it so much more fun. Yeah.
Right, because it's engaging that way. Like it's
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah. Or like, this is probably going to offend a lot of like Bachelor fans out there. I don't really enjoy watching Bachelor in Paradise, and all of that, Bachelorette by myself. But if you get me together with a group of people to watch it, I love it. It's so much fun. But by myself, it's just as like,
But
doesn't pull
don't
me
but don't like all of the I know so many relationship coaches that
in.
that's what they swear by. They're like you need to fall in love with yourself first. You need to be okay with yourself first and then I say I love that you're saying that cuz I think it's an industry, right? Like the relationship industry is a fucking industry. Like those so
Mhm.
but I trust you. I legit trust you. Like
Oh,
I love that you're shaking your head. Like so it's you're saying it's not about that. It's not about that I don't need anyone. I can do this alone.
yeah. How else am I supposed to know I'm lovable unless someone loves me?
So they say you should love yourself.
Yeah. How do I? How do I know that I'm a lovable, like as a kid, how do you learn that you're lovable? Your parents give you attention, they meet your needs, they tell you you're great and wonderful. So if I'm like, how am I supposed to, in a vacuum, figure out that I'm lovable? Yes, not all of your self worth should be from outside or external validation and all of that. But how are we supposed to learn what that looks like? And there's no end point in loving yourself. I mean, there's some days I'm like, wouldn't want to spend an hour with myself. And there are times I'm like, I'm the coolest person ever, right? That's never a constant. It's always an ebb and flow. And so figuring out where that point is where, yes, maybe there is some time you need some self-reflection and some self-work and some healing. But I think the threshold's a lot lower than we think of when that can include other people.
Okay, this is really powerful stuff you're saying here. I feel like this is controversial. So
It is
it's
very
it,
controversial.
and it resonates with me, and I think I'm gonna be honest. I think it resonates truthfully with most people because I'm perplexed by the industry, the relationship industry, where and again I know so many wonderful, brilliant relationship coaches, and they really do help, you know. And then in contrast to like when you see like shows like The Bachelor, and they have like all these relationship coaches, and they just they seem so masculine and like so like you need to force it and do this and call and don't
Well,
call
and
and
there's also plenty of women that reinforce that masculine approach as well. That like you should be taking care of him this way. You should expect this if you're heterosexual partners. Yeah.
right where it's like I hear so many times from people like where it's like oh my or I read in the book or I saw in the on this big relationship person they said call him and then they say don't call him but then call him but then don't call but don't talk about purple but don't talk about blue either talk about what he likes but it really is what you like. It's so like conflicted and so confusing.
Yeah.
I think at the core I think the truth of it is that we do want feedback, maybe feedback versus validation.
Well, and I think I was talking on a different podcast about this. If like, I think it's all in an attempt to seek control. If I know the rules and I can stay more in power, then I don't have to feel vulnerable.
Yeah, and this is so fun. Like what we're talking about is so vulnerable. Like it's making me feel awful. Like because I think at the core, I just go I mean a realization I made is my agreement right now as of this recording is probably at its core, at its deepest root, is I'm very lovable as an entertainer. I'm very lovable as a dad. I'm very lovable as a brother. I'm very lovable as a business owner. Like my clients are so amazing. They're very receptive, and they constantly are telling me how much they love me. But it stops there. Like I have in my head, or it really feels like it's in my core. I'm like, no, I have nothing to provide in the other thing, which is not
Well,
true
I
because I
think
fucking oh sorry.
Well, and I think that's evident in you saying that, like, oh yeah, me and my past partner definitely agree I fail at relationships, right? I mean, I don't think that's true. In every moment of all your relationships and the people you choose, you've always failed. It's always been a zero sum. Is that true?
Um, yeah, I thought so, but I've reached back to past girlfriends, and they were like, and I like fully was like, hey, I'm so sorry, I was like such a mess and everything when we were dating, and one girlfriend was like, I didn't notice.
Mhm.
She's very intense though. She's very like busy, so she didn't notice. So I picked that, you know.
And maybe there's things that you can look back on and it's like, oh yeah, I definitely would not do that again. Or I mean, if you know all the stories of my dating, you'd be like, she should not be giving advice.
But
Right.
you've
But like,
experienced
I
it
don't
though. Like you've
what?
experienced it. You've experienced the ups and the downs. I think it makes you more
Oh,
credible.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and not even ups and downs, just like being stupid. Like it's not even up and down, right? But I don't say like I failed at those things. I mean, yes, those relationships didn't work, but all relationships end with either breakup and divorce or death. So relationships end.
That's such a good way to look at it. I know there's some cultures like I've met people recently too where they were like, I forget what culture it is, but where it's like they just accept that like when you're married, it doesn't. That's not the end all. Like you're not like you're married for now, and then when it's time for it to be over, you like part as friends, and it's like it's ingrained in their culture. So riddle me this: when you're working with people, like, and you get a case like this, a mess like this, I'm just kidding. Where you get someone like that, like, what are the tools that you've seen really impact people and really help people get out of that place of feeling like that they're really like in their attachment style, and then how do they get to a place of where they can start like easing into relationships and start attempting to just play or just kind of explore or
Yeah. So I think first is just being able to really talk through and identify what those attachment behaviors are and when their attachment system's triggered. This might even just be feeling it in your body. Like when you maybe are more avoidant, when you feel that wall come up and you feel more distant, or when you're anxious and you feel that like urgency or like flutter of panic, like what does that feel like? Or it might just be like specifically naming, like we've done already, but like that was anxious, right? How we stated that, how we were thinking about that. It gives us more distance between that, where it's not like, well, this is just me as a person, this all is happening and experiencing all in here. It's like, no, this makes sense with the experiences I've had, that I react in this way. Is this a way I want to keep reacting? And we will still react that way most of the time. But if we have more distance and it's not right here, we're able to have some more space and be like, okay, that's not the person I want to continue to be. I understand. I'm not shaming myself for why I've been that way. But now, how do I want to react differently? And then it's just trying out relationships. Relationships are always an experiment. And as long as you're always upfront with where you're at and how you're feeling, that's okay. We're going to learn more about ourselves in a month of being in a relationship with someone than you can learn in 10 years of therapy with me.
right. It's like we said with with stand up. Like there's you could take all the classes you want and read all the books, but you have to go to open mics and just see what it's like. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah. And maybe we learn that you're not ready to date.
What does that look like? Like how does someone gauge that? I'm asking for a friend. It's not for me.
I think again, it's entering and trying to date, and then recognizing, like, are you just super triggered the whole time? Did you like start dating a stage 5 clinger? Did you like love bomb someone with all of this? Were you just worried or anxious the whole time about, like, should I text them, should I not text them, what's like, just when you feel that like trigger, that anxious or avoidant trigger just being constant, and you feel like you can't be present with that person, that's when we're like, okay, let's set back. What was going on there? Yeah.
You know, I have to say, like, sorry for my ADD here, but that is so helpful what you said, and you know, and it's so consistent with everything that you're amazing on Instagram. Like, you're my Instagram favorite.
Instagram's down right now, and I'm realizing how much of my time I spend on Instagram.
I know I was gonna actually email you today on
I know.
Instagram, and I realized it was down. That sucks. But you are you give these great tools. You're like the perfect example of like someone, a content creator, who is just so genuine in your creation. They never feel salesy. They are literally helpful, and I literally go there and I'm looking for answers. Like I am that guy who's like, oh, I need to talk to her about that. You know. So I just adore how you show up on
Oh, thanks.
Instagram. Was that ever like was that a choice like when you created that content like the because it feels just as easy and seamless for you as when you're talking to me now. Like everything you said, I'm like, oh yeah, she said that in her video. It's nice to hear that again. Do you when you started creating that content, was that a conscious choice to make it so conversational and make it so digestible?
I don't think that I'm can think that far ahead or have that much strategy, to be honest. But something I do experience at times is like how many like trending reels I watch to try and figure out how to put relationship stuff into these videos. And sometimes I feel like I just spit out these same 5 things. And I feel like too close to it. Like I was saying with like the like attachment, sometimes I just feel too close to relationship stuff. I'm like, what do people even experience in relationships anymore? I don't know. I talk too much about, it's like when you say the word like bowl and you say it too many times and now like bowl has lost all meaning. Like that's sometimes how I feel about relationships. I talk about it too much. So I'm like, what is relationship? I don't know. We'll say that's something I experience
But
being
it's
on it.
incredible how even and then to hear that because I'm just like, oh god, but it looks so effortless when you show up on screen. So, the bottom line is this was a really cool conversation. Like, and it was just fun to kind of take you out for a spin and see how you know like see how you work and stuff. What's the best way to reach you? Like, what's the best way if people want to connect to talk more about this stuff?
Yeah, so my Instagram is what I like keep most up to date. I wish I was as talented as other people that have like 10 different social media platforms. And I'm like, I can't even. So one is good enough for me. Um, but yeah, so Lone Wolf Psych is my Instagram handle. And I put content up pretty much every day. So feel free there. You can message me on there and you also can schedule stuff with me, or if you want more information, all that can be found on there, and you can connect to my website and all that stuff.
Oh my God. Like people really should, because like I just love talking about this stuff, and we could obviously go a lot more in depth, but I don't want to. They need to meet with you to like go through the process. What is your process like of working with someone?
Yeah, so it kind of depends if you want to do coaching or therapy. Kind of how I talk about that difference is like coaching is you kind of have like maybe done some work before on yourself, and it's not really like deep mental health trauma, deep relationship stuff that you need to like work through and process and sit with. But if you're like, I'm just ready to go, I've done it, I know what I need to do, I know I need to work on, but I just don't know what the next steps are. I need help figuring out dating, I need help figuring out my patterns a little bit, or I need someone to like talk through. I'm starting to date again. I need someone to talk through when I'm feeling triggered and what that means and how I should react. Coaching is perfect for that. So that is we meet and we talk a little bit about your relationship patterns and family and your attachment style, and then we dive into how we can get you a long-term significant dating partner and how we can adapt and change some of your dating habits. But if you ever want to do any like deeper work, so that can be relationship trauma, to talk through like deeper family issues or past relationships that have been really hurtful. Maybe you're in the middle of a breakup or divorce and you just need some support through that. And then also you want to work on future relationships. Therapy looks like that. How that typically goes is we spend the first couple sessions of me learning about you, and figuring out what some of those patterns and attachment behaviors are, and then we'll dive in and deepen that work and work on healing and getting you back out into dating and relationships.
Because relationships, we are wired for them, and
Yes.
everything, and that feedback is so necessary for our growth, is what you're saying. Oh, I just love it. What a great perspective. Your perspective resonates with me. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, good. Good. I mean, relationships are kind of what being human in life is about, right? Life would be pretty empty without them.
Well, I think for a lot of people, life is pretty empty with them.
Yep.
Do you like that? That's where my brain goes lately. Like that's how cynical I've become. This I never used to. I used to love Disney movies. You know. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you think that's gonna work out? Okay, well,
Cool, cool. You had
yeah.
this like magical pumpkin ride and now you're all in.
Oh yeah, you don't know this prince. Like you've never
Yeah.
spoken to him. He's used to like bossing people around, and you've been the servant. Like, that's
That's how I
like
was like gonna end for you. But yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that could be the most painful thing too, is when we feel alone when we're in a relationship. And so that's stuff to work on as well, because there's unmet needs that either you don't know how to communicate, or you're afraid to communicate, or you don't know what they are, or you have a partner who's not receptive to listening.
And that's what I hear a lot of.
Mhm.
Is like you can do all the work yourself, but if it's not a two-way street, like things shut down.
Yeah. You can't carry the load of the relationship yourself.
Oh my God, this what a complicated topic. I do kind of want to do. I want to do like a 7-part series with you where we like walk through step by step, you know. But it's okay.
All
We'll talk.
pieces.
And
Yeah.
by that I really mean I should be your client.
I mean, why? We can just do therapy on your show. It's cool.
I know. I love my life. Like it's
But
so
that's
great.
what people enjoy, is when people are able to like talk about themselves and give those like real world applications of what this looks like. And that's why social marketing works so much, is because people love it when the professionals are like, yeah, this is how screwed up my relationship is, and this is how I deal with it. People want to hear that.
It's very true. Hopefully it's the case with this episode.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Brittany, you're the best. Thank you so much for your time today. I just adore you. Check her out, please. Run, don't walk. Check her out. Check her out on Instagram, and you will not be disappointed. She's feeling like she feels her what is it on stories or time whatever. Her Instagram profile is filled with incredible insight, and these videos they're fun, but they're like literally they're like these gems where you go like, oh, okay, I'm gonna incorporate that today into my everything. So I'm such a fan, Dr. Brittany. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.